The dust is the first thing you feel. It coats your throat, a dry and bitter taste of the Mesopotamian plains that lingers like the memory of a ghost. In the dark, suffocating hours of October 331 BC, the world held its breath. Imagine a space so vast it swallows the horizon, where the campfires of a million men flicker like fallen stars against the black earth. This is the plain of Gaugamela. It is not just a piece of land. It is an altar where the fate of the known world is about to be sacrificed. The air is thick, not just with the heat of the desert, but with the suffocating weight of 200 years of Persian dominance. In the heart of the Macedonian camp, there is a silence that feels like a physical blow. Alexander sits alone in his tent. He is 25 years old. To his soldiers, he is a living god, the son of Zeus. To his enemies, he is a reckless plague from the west. But in the flickering, dying light of a single torch, he is a man whose shadow looms larger than the mountains of Macedon. His generals, men who have bled for his father Philip and survived 1,000 skirmishes, stand outside his tent with their hearts in their throats. Parmenion, the gray, bearded wolf of the army, has already pleaded for a night attack. He whispered of the sheer, terrifying impossibility of the numbers facing them. He told the king that the Persians are too many, that their line stretches for miles beyond their own flanks, and that to face them in the light is suicide. But Alexander only stared into the flame. He knows that a victory stolen in the dark is a victory that can be questioned. He needs the sun to witness the death of an empire. He needs the world to see that he did not just win, he conquered destiny itself. Welcome to Men Rising Epic Chronicles. Today, we step into the heart of the storm, lacing up the bronze greaves of the Macedonian phalanx and feeling the trembling of the earth beneath the golden chariots of the King of Kings. Today, we L letter 1AD M letter 1EDF, we are turning the blood-soaked pages of history to witness the collision of two titans. Across the flat, leveled earth, Darius III waits. He is the master of the world, the successor of Cyrus and the heir to 1,000 years of majesty. He has not left this to chance. He has ordered his men to flatten the terrain, clearing away every rock and every bush so his scythed chariots can tear through the Greek lines like a hot blade through silk. He has the immortals, the elite guard who never seem to die. He has the war elephants from the east. He has a wall of men so dense they could drink the rivers dry. And yet, as the first gray light of dawn begins to bleed over the horizon, Darius feels a coldness that no royal silk can warm. He looks across the void and knows the young lion is coming for his head. The silence before the Battle of Gaugamela is not empty. It is a heavy, rhythmic pressure that crushes the chest. You can hear the leather straps of the shields creaking. You can hear the low, melodic chanting of the Macedonian soldiers, a deep hum that vibrates in the marrow of your bones. They are a forest of 18-foot pikes, the sarissas, held upright like the quills of a prehistoric beast. They are the anvil upon which a new age will be forged. The sun finally breaks. A sliver of gold cuts through the dust, glinting off Alexander's polished helmet. He mounts Bucephalus, the great black stallion that has carried him across 3 continents. He does not look at his men. He looks straight at the golden canopy of Darius, miles away across the plain. The order is given. The drums begin a slow, thunderous beat that matches the heartbeat of the earth. A million Persians scream a war cry that shakes the very foundations of the world. The phalanx begins to move, a slow, unstoppable tide of bronze. And then, the Persian chariots are released. They are a wall of spinning blades and galloping fury, charging at a speed that makes the air scream. The gap between the two worlds closes in seconds. Death is no longer a concept, it is a physical presence rushing toward them. And the first line of the phalanx can see the madness in the eyes of the Persian horses. The scream of the scythed chariots is a sound no man ever forgets. It is the sound of metal tearing the wind apart. As they hurtle toward the Macedonian front, the air turns to a blur of spinning blades and frothing horses. Every soldier in the first rank feels the primal urge to run, to break, to disappear into the dust. But here is where the cold logic of the king's mind supersedes the fear of the flesh. Alexander had anticipated this terror. He knew that Darius relied on the shock of these machines to shatter the discipline of the infantry. As the chariots reach the critical point, the Macedonian phalanx does not shatter. Instead, they open. With the precision of a masterful surgeon, the ranks part like the Red Sea, creating narrow corridors of death. The Persian drivers, unable to steer their horses away from the sudden void, plunge deep into these mousetraps. Suddenly, the blades that were meant to reap human lives are useless. From the sides, the light infantry swarm. They grab the reins, they slit the throats of the horses, they drag the drivers from their seats. The great weapon of Darius is neutralized in a heartbeat, leaving nothing but smashed wood and screaming animals in the wake of the Macedonian advance. But Alexander is not looking at the carnage behind him. He is playing a game of chess on a scale the world has never seen. He begins to lead his companion cavalry, the elite of the elite, in a sharp diagonal, to the right. He is not charging headlong into the Persian center. He is luring them. He is stretching the Persian line thin, pulling them away from their prepared ground. Darius, watching from his high chariot, sees the Macedonian king slipping away toward the rough terrain. He panics. He sends his own left-wing cavalry to block Alexander, to overwhelm him with sheer numbers. This is the moment the trap snaps shut. By pulling the Persian cavalry out to the flank, Darius has unwittingly created a gap in his own center. A tiny vulnerable rift in the wall of Persian immortals. It is a fracture in the fabric of an empire. Imagine the sight from above. The two armies are like two great beasts grappling in the dust. But Alexander is the blade. He turns Bucephalus in an instant. He forms his cavalry into a giant wedge, a pointed arrowhead of bronze and muscle. And he points that arrowhead directly at the heart of Darius. The Macedonians are no longer just defending. They are a lightning bolt striking the eye of the storm. They charge not at the army but at the man. Every hoofbeat is a hammer blow against the foundation of the Persian Empire. The dust rises so thick you can no longer see the sky, only the flash of spears, and the terrified eyes of the men standing in the path of the Macedonian Juggernaut. The ground beneath the horses feels like it is liquefying, soaked in the sweat and blood of tens of thousands. Darius feels the ground tremble. He sees Alexander covered in blood and dust, riding like a demon toward his chariot. The gap is closing. The Persian guards try to hold the line, but the momentum of the wedge is unstoppable. It is not just physical force, it is the psychological weight of a man who believes he cannot lose. The immortals start to hesitate. The nobles around the king begin to look for an escape. In this choking, bloody chaos, the entire Persian Empire begins to suffocate under the gaze of one man. Alexander is now close enough to see the golden embroidery on the king's robes. He raises his spear, and for a split second the entire universe stops spinning. The fate of millions hangs on the tip of that single piece of wood and iron. The breath of the world is caught in the throat of destiny. Every second stretches into an eternity as the young conqueror locks eyes with the King of Kings. The spear leaves Alexander's hand like a streak of lightning. It does not strike Darius, but it shatters the air between them. The Persian king's driver is pierced through the chest, tumbling from the chariot in a spray of crimson. In the blinding dust and the screams of the dying, the Persian soldiers see an empty seat. The rumor spreads faster than the wind. The king is dead. The god has fallen. Darius, looking into the eyes of the Macedonian devil, feels his ancestral courage wither. He does not reach for his sword. He reaches for the reins. He turns his chariot. He flees. This is the psychological crack that swallows nations. Power is not built on bronze or gold, it is built on the illusion of invincibility. The moment Darius turns his back, the 200-year-old fabric of the Persian Empire unravels in a heartbeat. The immortals, seeing their sovereign retreat, lose the will to die. The massive center of the Persian army turns from a wall of iron into a stampede of terror. Thousands of men, once brave, are now crushed under the feet of their own comrades. Alexander does not stop. He pushes Bucephalus through the sea of bodies, his eyes fixed on the cloud of dust, marking the escape of the King of Kings. He is a hunter who has finally smelled the blood of his prey. But then a cry reaches him through the roar of battle. It is not a cry of victory. It is a desperate plea from the left flank. While Alexander was piercing the heart of Darius, his own army was being strangled. Parmenion the Old Wolf is surrounded. The Persian right wing, led by the ferocious Mazius, has broken through the Macedonian lines. They are plundering the baggage train. They are cutting down the veterans who have survived 100 battles. The anvil is breaking. If the left flank falls, the entire Macedonian victory will be a hollow tomb. Alexander reins in his horse. The sweat drips from his brow, mixing with the Persian dust to form a mask of red clay. This is the ultimate test of the hero. To the right, the ultimate prize. Darius is within reach. One more charge and the head of the Persian monarch will be on a Macedonian spear. The war would be over. The glory would be absolute. But to the left his brothers are dying. The men who fed him, the men who protected his back since he was a boy, are being slaughtered in the dust. Logic dictates the pursuit. Emotion demands the rescue. Strategy is a cold, bitter calculus of sacrifice. Alexander looks at the retreating dust of Darius. Then he looks at the smoke rising from his own camp. He turns Bucephalus away from his destiny. He chooses his men over his crown. He leads the companion cavalry in a brutal whirlwind reverse, slamming into the rear of the Persians who thought they had won. The clash is beyond description. It is no longer a battle, it is a meat grinder. Swords shatter against shields. Men scream in languages that have no words for this level of agony. Alexander fights like a man possessed, every strike a venting of the rage he feels for letting Darius slip away. He is saving his army, but he is feeling the weight of a victory that is slipping through his fingers like sand. The Persians under Mazias, seeing the king's wedge, returning like a ghost from the dead, finally break. They scatter into the vastness of the plain. The dust begins to settle, revealing a landscape that is no longer earth but a carpet of broken wood, twisted metal, and the silent, cold bodies of 60,000 men. The sun is high now, unforgiving and brutal. Alexander stands among the ruins of an empire, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He has won the greatest battle in history, but as he looks toward the mountains, where Darius has disappeared, he realizes the ghost of the King of Kings will haunt him until the end of the world. The war is not over. It has only just changed its shape. The sun is a dying embryo on the horizon, casting long, bloody shadows across the ruins of Gaugamela. Alexander stands still. The adrenaline that once fueled his veins has replaced itself with a cold, hollow ache. He looks at his hands. They are stained with the crimson of kings and peasants alike. He has won. The map of the world has been redrawn by his blade. But as he watches the last vestiges of Darius' dust vanish into the Persian night, he feels the bitter taste of an unfinished destiny. He chose his men. He chose the lives of those who loved him over the head of the man he hated. It was the noblest act of his life, and it is the one that will keep him awake for every night that remains. This is the burden of the rising man. You will reach the summit, but you will realize the view is not what you imagined. The silence of the battlefield is louder than the war cries. It whispers a truth we often ignore. Greatness is not a destination, it is a constant, agonizing series of choices. Alexander saved his army, but in doing so he bought himself years of unrelenting pursuit, thousands of more miles, and a hunger that would never be satisfied. The Juggernaut effect grips his soul. The open loop of Darius' escape will drive him to the ends of the earth until the very air he breathes feels like dust. Listen closely. Your life is a series of Gaugamelas. You are standing on the plain facing an army of doubt, debt, and fear. You are looking for that momentum, that charge that will change everything. But remember this battle. Remember that the truest victory is not just crushing your enemy. It is staying human when the world wants you to be a monster. It is turning back to save your brothers when the golden crown is within reach. Alexander became the master of Asia that day, but he became a king of men when he turned his horse around. What is the Darius you are chasing? What is the sacrifice you are afraid to make? The dust of Gaugamela still swirls around us. It is in the sweat of your hustle. It is in the tears of your failures. But within that dust, there is the gold of your character. Do not just rise to conquer, rise to lead. Rise to protect. Rise to be the man whose shadow provides shelter for others. The world does not need more conquerors who leave a trail of broken hearts. It needs men who can win the war within themselves. This is the end of this chapter, but the beginning of yours. The story of Alexander is a mirror. What do you see when you look into the blood and the dust? We want to hear your story. We want to know about the moments you had to choose between your ambition and your brotherhood. Reach out to us. Share your battles, your victories, and your scars at vodokvayankni12@gmail.com. Let your voice be the thunder that follows the storm. Until next time on Men Rising, keep your spear sharp and your heart brave. The horizon is waiting.